Growing up in the sprawling estates of San Francisco, Maya Sterling lived in a world of gold-plated expectations. Her father, Arthur, helmed a tech empire, while her mother, Eleanor, curated a life of flawless social standing. Everything was tailored for her older sister, Sienna, the golden child who effortlessly collected Ivy League accolades. But for Maya, the world was a blur of jumbled letters and cold stares. Diagnosed with dyslexia at age 7, she was not met with support, but with a suffocating sense of shame. Her parents dismissed her struggles as a lack of ambition, often labeling her the slow one during tense family dinners. While Sienna received elite tutors and every resource to shine, Maya was cast aside. She was left to navigate her silent struggle alone, in the shadow of a family that valued status over its own daughter. In the cold architecture of the Sterling household, Maya found her only sanctuary in a small, ivy-covered cottage on the edge of the estate. This was the home of her grandmother, Evelyn. While Maya's parents saw her dyslexia as a defect to be hidden, Evelyn saw a superpower waiting to be harnessed. Every Sunday, away from her father's critical gaze, Maya would sit by the fireplace as Evelyn shared the secrets of the business world. She taught through vivid stories and intricate puzzles rather than textbooks. Maya, the way your brain works is not a mistake, Evelyn would say, her voice steady and warm. While others are stuck looking at the lines, you see the entire map. You notice the patterns they overlook, because they are too busy following them. Under Evelyn's wing, Maya stopped trying to force herself into a mold that did not fit. She began developing her own visual language, using flowcharts and mental imagery to process complex data. On Maya's 18th birthday, Evelyn handed her a weathered cedar box bound in tarnished silver. The weight of it felt significant, as if it held more than just physical objects. "Keep this hidden, sweetheart," Evelyn whispered, her eyes reflecting a lifetime of strategic foresight. "The world, and your father, will try to tell you who you are, but inside this box is the truth. Do not open it until the day you feel the world has completely turned its back on you. You will know when the moment is right." Maya tucked the box away. It was a secret promise of a future she could not yet imagine. After graduating from a state university, Maya hoped for a fresh start at Sterling Tech Solutions. But the reality was a cold wake-up call. Her father, Arthur, hired her as a junior administrative assistant with a meager salary. In stark contrast, Sienna was fast-tracked into the role of chief strategy officer, boasting a staggering salary and executive bonuses. While Sienna's name was etched in gold on a corner office, Maya was tucked away in a windowless cubicle. The disparity was not just about the money, it was about the deliberate exclusion. Maya was never invited to board meetings, or even CC'd on internal memos. She spent her days scanning invoices and organizing digital archives, tasks her parents believed were the limit of her slow mind. However, they underestimated the very thing they mocked. Because Maya processed information visually, she did not just file documents, she mapped them. In the quiet of the archives, she began to see patterns that the high-paid executives missed. She noticed discrepancies in vendor contracts and subtle shifts in resource allocation. She saw the company's DNA through its data, in a way Sienna never could. Despite being treated like a ghost in her own family's empire, Maya remained a silent observer. She was gathering knowledge and sharpening her unique vision. She was learning the mechanics of the business from the ground up, waiting for the moment when her different perspective would become her greatest weapon. In April 2026, the fragile peace shattered. Maya was summoned not to the executive boardroom, but to a cold, sterile HR office. The email was brief, mentioning position restructuring. Arthur and Eleanor did not even have the courage to tell her to her face. They let a cold PDF do the talking. But the true sting came later that evening. While clearing out her desk in the quiet office, Maya overheard her parents' voices through the thin partition of the executive lounge. "We can't have her lingering in the hallways once Sienna officially takes the helm," Arthur's voice was sharp. "It looks unprofessional, the CEO's sister working as a low-level clerk." Eleanor's response was a soft, devastating sigh. "It is for the best, William. Some children simply are not built for this world. We have given her a roof and a salary for years. We have done our part." Maya stood frozen, her fingers gripping a cardboard box. In that moment, the harsh reality settled into her bones. She was not being let go because of her performance. She was being erased to polish her sister's image. If she walked away now, she would be homeless in months. The tight knot in her chest was not just fear, it was a sudden, icy clarity. For 28 years, she had played the role they wrote for her. But as she walked out of the building, she realized that accepting their version of her story was the only true way to fail. The grand ballroom of the Fairmont San Francisco was a sea of shimmering silk and crystal champagne. It was the night of Sienna's official ascension, a gala for over 300 of the city's elite. Maya stood at the entrance, her simple dress a stark contrast to the designer gowns swirling around her. Before she could even find a seat, Eleanor intercepted her with a tight, artificial smile. "You are at table 32, Maya," her mother whispered. "Tonight is about your sister's future, so don't embarrass us." Maya sat in the shadows, the clatter of dishes and the smell of industrial cleaners her only companions. She watched as the elite toasted to a $92 million legacy. At 9 p.m., Arthur took the stage, his voice booming with pride. "Effective immediately, Sienna Sterling will inherit my entire estate and the role of CEO." The room erupted in a thunderous ovation. 300 people stood to applaud the chosen heir, and not a single head turned toward the girl at table 32. Maya felt invisible, a ghost at her own family's feast. As she watched her father beam at Sienna, she realized this was a final public execution of her place in the family. The humiliation was complete, but Maya stopped waiting for a seat she was never meant to have. The stage was set, but the real play was about to begin. As the applause for Sienna echoed through the gilded hall, a figure moved against the tide of the celebration. A silver-haired man in a charcoal suit approached table 32. "My name is Julian Vance," he said, his voice low but resonant. "I served as your grandmother Evelyn's private counsel for 30 years. He placed a heavy cream-colored envelope on the linen tablecloth. It was sealed with a thick wedge of crimson wax, embossed with Evelyn's personal signet. "She left very specific instructions," Vance continued. "She said to deliver this only on the day your father showed you exactly who he is." With trembling fingers, Maya retreated to a quiet corridor and broke the seal. Inside were 3 pages of dense, notarized legal text dated 4 years prior. "To my granddaughter, Maya Rose Sterling, I bequeath my original 51% stake in Sterling Tech Solutions LLC." Maya's breath hitched as her eyes locked onto the life-altering paragraph. The document explained that while Arthur had run the company, Evelyn had never actually relinquished her controlling interest. She had watched from the sidelines as Maya was diminished and dismissed. "Maya is not slow," the letter attached to the deed read. Maya was simply abandoned by those too blind to see her brilliance. At that moment, the empire did not just belong to her father anymore. It belonged to the girl at the service table. That night, alone in her small apartment, Maya finally reached for the weathered cedar box. The silver latch clicked open, revealing more than just old trinkets. Inside lay a handwritten letter from Evelyn, a faded partnership agreement, and a small, encrypted USB drive. As Maya plugged the drive into her laptop, the room filled with the ghostly echo of a boardroom meeting. Her father's, sharp and predatory, cut through the silence. "My mother is 82. She has lost her edge and does not grasp the complexities of modern tech. We need a resolution to strip her of her voting rights," he stated coldly. Maya felt a chill run down her spine, realizing her father had actively tried to betray his own mother. But Evelyn had been 2 steps ahead. She had recorded that meeting as insurance, knowing Arthur's ambition would eventually turn on Maya too. She had spent years quietly documenting his mismanagement. She was preparing a legal fortress to protect the one person who truly shared her vision. "Maya, I knew they would try to break your spirit to build their own," the letter concluded. "But they forgot that I built this empire, and I get to decide who guards its gates. You have the heart they lack, and the vision they fear. Use this truth wisely." The box was not just a gift, it was a blueprint for justice. Evelyn had left Maya a way to finally take back her name. The executive boardroom of Sterling Tech was a fortress of polished walnut and glass. At 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, Maya walked through those heavy doors holding a simple manila folder. Arthur sat at the head of the table, his face reddening as he saw his daughter. "Maya, leave immediately. This is a private session for shareholders." "Actually, Arthur," interrupted Robert Hartley, the board's oldest member, "Ms. Sterling has every right. She has called this emergency session." Maya did not flinch as she placed the notarized will on the table. As Julian Vance authenticated the 51% controlling interest, a heavy silence fell over the room. When Arthur tried to claim his mother had been manipulated, Maya simply reached for her phone and pressed play. The room filled with Arthur's own voice, plotting to strip his mother of her rights. The betrayal was public, time-stamped, and undeniable. The board, tired of Arthur's aggressive management style, did not hesitate. The vote was swift, 7-4 for a motion of no confidence. Arthur was stripped of his CEO title, effective immediately. He looked at Maya then, truly looked at her for the first time. He saw not a slow child, but the architect of his own downfall. In the very room where he had tried to erase her, Maya had reclaimed the throne. 6 months after the boardroom coup, the atmosphere at Sterling Tech had shifted. Maya did not seat herself in her father's old mahogany chair. Instead, she stepped into the role of Director of Sustainable Development. Her new salary and dividends finally reflected her true worth. But the real change was not in her bank account, it was in her perspective. While Arthur had retreated into a forced retirement, Maya chose a different path for her sister. Instead of firing Sienna, Maya invited her to coffee in a small, quiet cafe. For the first time in their lives, they spoke not as rivals, but as two women crushed by the same standard. "I never realized how much pressure you were under to be perfect," Maya said softly. Sienna admitted to the exhaustion of maintaining a facade for a father who only valued her utility. Maya chose fairness over vengeance, allowing Sienna to remain in her legal role under new oversight. They began a slow, deliberate process of unlearning decades of toxic family dynamics. By choosing mercy, Maya proved she was a better leader and a better person. She was not just running a company, she was breaking a cycle of generational trauma. She proved that the ultimate power move is not crushing your enemies, but turning them into allies. Today, a portrait of Grandmother Evelyn hangs in Maya's office. It is not a symbol of wealth, but a reminder of vision. Maya finally understands that her dyslexia was never a flaw. It was the very lens that allowed her to spot the patterns others ignored. The $47 million valuation, but it is not her greatest prize. The real inheritance was the moment she stopped waiting for approval from her father. Maya no longer defines her worth by someone else's narrow definition of intelligence. She has built a life rooted in patience, visual strategy, and the strength of being underestimated. To anyone who has ever been labeled the slow one, Maya's story is a beacon. You don't need a secret will to prove your value. You just need the courage to own the very things they told you to hide. Maya's journey proves that being different is often the key to seeing what everyone else misses.